All right, so we are going to get started. Hello, welcome to this tutorial for assignment 3 part 2. In this tutorial, I will be talking about the entire process of completing this assignment step by step. However, a disclaimer, I was unable to get certain things to work, especially as I was having issues from my assignment 1. It kind of carried over to assignment 2. And another note is I am also having issues generating images on this README, so there will be no images in this tutorial for you to see, but I will explain everything in detail. So our goal for this tutorial is to set up 2 Arch Linux servers as web servers, configure a load balancer to distribute traffic between the 2 servers, deploy and test an updated generate_index script to dynamically create HTML pages, and add functionality to serve files from a directory using a file server setup. So we'll cover each step in detail, and I'll explain the purpose behind the configurations, and by the end you all should have a solid understanding of the process. So as we see here, task 1 is create 2 new DigitalOcean droplets. So this is relatively pretty simple, but we will go through it either way. So when you go to the DigitalOcean control panel and you will create 2 droplets, and you will choose Arch Linux as operating system. But to go with it step by step, we will first log into your DigitalOcean account, and this is where you'll find all your droplets. Once you're logged in, you will go to the control panel, and then you can see create the droplets on the control panel. And after that, you will choose Arch Linux as the operating system. This is like a lightweight Linux and flexible Linux distribution system that we're able to configure from scratch. And then this is very important that we select the San Francisco 3 region because that is the closest time zone to us. It's actually the same time zone, but let's make sure that both droplets are in the same region, which is critical for the load balancer to function properly, which we will create in task 2. So another thing that's important is we will apply the web tag to both droplets. So that will help identify and group the resources in DigitalOcean. This tag is going to be used also when we create the load balancer. So it's important to make sure that we create this tag. And just as something to mention is that we do not have to create 2 separate droplets. And what I mean by that is that when we're creating our droplets, we just at the bottom, we can decide how many we want to create. So since they're identical, we would just make it 2 and then change the name. So in this case, we have Arch Web Server 1 and then we have Arch Web Server 2, but you can name it whatever you like. You just need to make sure that you distinguish it. All right, so after that, we will connect to the droplets. So once the droplets are created, we will note down their IP addresses and open our terminal to connect our droplet. All right, so once you connect to your droplet, you can use, there's a few different ways. The way I use it is SSH-I DOL and then the droplet IP. So this command connects you to the server and makes you the root user, which gives you full administrative access. All right, so we are now moving on to setting up the load balancer. So the way we're going to do this is so very quickly, we need to make sure that our droplets are working before we go and create our load balancer, otherwise the load balancer will not configure properly. The load balancer is essential for distributing incoming traffic between the two droplets. This ensures high availability and load distribution. And so when we create the load balancer, you're going to go on the networking section in the DigitalOcean control panel and click on Create Load Balancer. So once you configure the load balancer, the way you do that is you select SFO3. Once again, we need to make sure that it's matching the droplets region. And the tag, we're going to say web. This tells the load balancer to manage all server tags in the web. And then make sure that it's set to like external public, and that the forwarding rules HTTP traffic on port 80, which is the default port for web servers. And so it's very important to verify connectivity. So once the load balancer is created, check its status in the dashboard. Both droplets should show up as healthy. So if it's not showing up as healthy and it's showing up as down, there may be issues. And some troubleshooting things we can try is making sure that Nginx is actually installed on both of those droplets, which is an issue I had, and that is how I fixed it. So this means that the load balancer is successfully communicating with both droplets. So moving on to task 3, we'll deploy the updated generate_index script, which generates the index.html file that we need. So the first thing we're going to do is clone the repository. On each droplet, we're going to run the command. And another disclaimer, make sure that in whatever you do in server 1, you're also doing in server 2. Git commits are the only thing that doesn't apply to this. It's very important because this is for the load balancer to work correctly. Even though mine unfortunately was not working, this wasn't one of the reasons. So yeah, so we'll run the command git clone and then the starter code, and this is going to download the repository, and then we are going to move the generate_index script to the right directory, which for mine it's assignment 3 part 2, and we will use the mv the sudo mv command. And then yes, we will actually move it to the var lib webgen bin, but it's going to be in my assignment 3 part 2 directory, so that when I'm committing, it will show up on my GitHub. So after that, we need to make sure that we grant execute permissions and we make the script executable. And then so the chmod command basically just changes file permissions, and then the +x grants execute permissions, which allows the script to run. So after that, we are going to set up supporting files. This is very important, and we'll create the document directories and placeholders. So as you see the commands here, there's 3 specific commands: the sudo mkdir -p command, the sudo touch file1 command, and the sudo touch file2 command. So we're creating these 2 files, and we need to make sure that we're doing this in server 1, but we're also doing this in server 2. So yeah, so mkdir-p creates the document directory, and then touch creates empty files. And so now and then the third command is going to be, the fourth command, which is right here, the sudo touch command, the HTML command, is going to create a placeholder for the index.html file. All right. Moving on to task 4, update server configuration for file server. Make sure the server block can handle documents and requests. This is the part where we will be editing our server block from assignment part, the assignment 3 part 1. So once you open your editor, you can use Nano or NeoVim. I just prefer to use NeoVim. You're going to configure the file server, and so you open the Nginx configuration file, and this block of code is what you are going to put in there. So this is actually from the server_block. It is edited, however, for this assignment, or updated, I should say. But yeah, so this is what we will be putting into our script. And so make sure once you save that, you do the sudo nginx-t, which checks for errors and make sure there are no errors. And actually, just to go back up and explain the code a little bit, so we have is it right here, listen 80. So this command right here listens for HTTP and requests on port 80, and then the location here serves the index.html file, and then the location -documents serves the file in the document directory. Yeah, and so when we check for errors, once that is saved, we check for errors, and if there are no errors, we can proceed with the last 3 commands for task 4, which I believe, yeah, the last 3 commands. So the first command, which is sudo systemctl daemon reload systemd to apply changes. The start nginx.service starts the nginx web server, and then the sudo systemctl enable nginx service configures nginx to start automatically on boot. So this all is supposed to help create or help configure everything so that it works out. For me, unfortunately, this same as assignment 1 wasn't working on my terminal, so I was having issues with that. But yeah, so once you would do all of that, all of those things, you should be good to go. So in conclusion, in this tutorial, we set up 2 Arch Linux droplets, configured a load balancer to distribute traffic, deployed and tested the generate_index script, configured nginx to serve files with handle requests, and the setup makes sure that there's a robust web infrastructure for all of us to use. Let me know if there are any questions you have, any clarifications. But yeah, that's about it. All right, thank you so much.